Why Tudor Christmas was 12 days of chaos. The Lord of Misrule, a common jester or servant crowned king for a night, was about to throw a pie at a duke. In the great hall of Hampton Court Palace, the normal rules of society were officially suspended for these 12 days. The air was thick with the smell of spiced wine and roasting boar, the noise a cacophony of laughter, music, and the clatter of overturned goblets. This wasn't an accident. It was a state-sanctioned explosion of chaos. And it was only possible because of what came before. 4 weeks of complete and total religious restraint. To understand the madness, we have to rewind to the quiet, austere beginning of Advent. The Great Fast, 4 weeks of restraint. For the Tudors, Christmas didn't begin with festive cheer in early December. It began with a fast. The 4 weeks of Advent were a period of mandatory religious observance, a time of penitence and preparation that affected everyone, from King Henry VIII in his palaces to the common farmer in his cottage. The rules were strict: no meat, no eggs, no dairy. This meant a diet dominated by fish, bread, and pottage, a far cry from the indulgence we associate with the holiday season. This wasn't just a minor dietary change. It was a psychological buildup. The chronicler Henry Mackenz's diary documents the seriousness with which this fast was observed, noting the shift in public life and church services. For an entire month, the richest and poorest alike participated in this collective act of denial. The sizzle of bacon was absent from kitchens, and the usual feasts were replaced by simpler, plainer meals. This created a powerful sense of anticipation. The body craved fat and protein, and the mind yearned for celebration. The fast made the upcoming feast not just a want, but a physical and psychological necessity. Imagine the entire country, in a sense, holding its breath. The restraint was a deliberate mechanism, a winding of a spring. The longer and tighter the constraint, the greater the eventual release. This functional impact on daily life, the altered household routines, the quieted celebrations, was all designed to heighten the significance of what was to come. The contrast was the entire point. The Tudors understood drama. They knew that true celebration is born from deprivation. And at the stroke of midnight on Christmas Eve, that deprivation was finally, officially, over. Decorating for chaos, symbols of the season. The transition from fast to feast was immediate and visible. As December 24th arrived, households sprang into action, but not with the wrapped presents and electric lights we know today. They decorated with what nature provided in the depths of winter: holly, ivy, and rosemary. These evergreens, symbols of life enduring through the cold death of winter, were arranged into wreaths, garlands, and bunches, bringing the outside in and transforming homes into green sanctuaries. This decoration was more than just festive. It was symbolic of a total shift in daily life. Work tools, like spinning wheels, were ceremoniously wrapped in these green garlands. This wasn't just decoration. It was a decommissioning. The message was clear. Normal labor was suspended. For the next 12 days, a different kind of work, the work of celebration, would take precedence. Of course, as any historian will note, this stoppage likely didn't extend to the endless labor of the lady of the house and her servants, who were now tasked with preparing the massive feasts. One of the most recognizable Tudor decorations was the kissing bough. This was not a single sprig of mistletoe, but an elaborate creation of 2 interwoven evergreen wreaths, from which mistletoe was suspended. And yes, the kissing tradition existed, but with a very Tudor twist: a rule. A couple meeting under the bough had to kiss, but only for as long as there were berries on the mistletoe. After each kiss, the gentleman was required to pluck 1 berry. When the berries were gone, the privilege expired. It was structured flirtation, a game with clear boundaries. Holly carried its own romantic customs, often used for divination. A young woman would take 3 smooth holly leaves and 3 prickly ones, wrap them in a handkerchief, and place them under her pillow on Christmas Eve. The belief was that she would dream of her future husband that night. For a man, the ritual was simpler and more immediate. The first unmarried woman he saw on his way to church on Christmas morning was destined to be his future wife. These customs show how the season was woven with threads of magic, hope, and social expectation, all signaling that the ordinary rules of life were temporarily on hold, making way for the chaos and indulgence to come.
The feast. Henry's extravagant table.
After the solemnity of midnight mass, the restraint of Advent shattered completely on Christmas morning. For King Henry VIII, this meant a feast of almost unimaginable scale. Though he owned more than 50 palaces, his preferred venue for these celebrations was Hampton Court, its vast halls designed to accommodate the spectacle. This was more than a meal. It was political theater, a demonstration of wealth and power meant to impress foreign ambassadors and consolidate his authority at home. The centerpiece of the royal table was often the wild boar, a creature that Henry VIII had a personal passion for hunting. By the Tudor era, wild boar were nearly extinct in England, and the king's own hunting enthusiasm likely contributed to their scarcity, which in turn made the meat an even greater delicacy and status symbol. To ensure a supply for his Christmas table, entire herds were imported from continental Europe and released into his private hunting grounds. The presentation of the boar's head was a ceremonial event in itself, a testament to the king's prowess and the kingdom's reach. Alongside the boar were dishes that would seem strange to us today. Mince pies were their savory ancestors, filled with a finely chopped mixture that included actual meat, along with suet, fruits, and spices. They were a symbol of wealth, as the spices were incredibly expensive. The Tudors also excelled at marzipan, crafting it into elaborate shapes like chess sets and scenting it with rosewater. Henry once sent a marzipan chess set as a diplomatic gift to the King of France. Gingerbread and other spice treats were equally common, their presence on the table a direct display of the host's financial power. The pinnacle of this edible opulence was a giant fruitcake, sometimes nearly a meter in diameter. Household accounts from the reigns of Henry VIII, Edward VI, and Elizabeth I reveal the staggering volume of consumption. These records list purchases of thousands of eggs, hundreds of pounds of butter and sugar, and countless birds and joints of meat. The feast was a massive logistical operation, a deliberate and overwhelming sensory experience designed to erase the memory of the lean weeks that had preceded it. It was the first and most fundamental act of the 12-day celebration, the physical indulgence that matched the psychological release. The 12 days, ritualized revelry. But the feast was just the beginning. The 12 days that followed were a carefully managed period of ritualized revelry, a sustained suspension of the social order. The most famous symbol of this was the Lord of Misrule. In great households and at court, a commoner, a jester or a servant, would be crowned as a temporary king. For the duration of the celebrations, his whimsical and often absurd decrees had to be obeyed, even by the aristocracy. This inversion of hierarchy was not a spontaneous riot. It was a state-sanctioned pressure valve. It allowed for a controlled release of social tensions that might otherwise become dangerous, all under the guise of holiday fun. Throughout these 12 days, work was officially stopped across all social classes, a truly remarkable concept for a society built on manual labor. While the lady of the house and her servants were certainly not idle, the fields were quiet and the workshops were closed. This universal pause was punctuated by daily church services, which provided a thread of religious observance running through the chaos, a reminder of the holy purpose that had justified the fast and now framed the feast. The celebrations built to a chaotic climax on Twelfth Night, the eve of January 6th. This was the night of the grandest party, the most elaborate masks, and the most extreme behavior from the Lord of Misrule. Imagine the scene we started with: a servant, empowered to mock his masters, a duke dodging a flying pie, the air thick with the smells of the feast, and the sounds of unrestrained celebration. This was the peak of the scheduled madness. The entire 12-day period functioned as a psychological reset. It allowed for a full immersion in excess, a communal experience that bonded people across class lines through shared ritual before the world had to snap back to its rigid, ordinary structure. Conclusion: the Tudor legacy. This entire cycle, the intense fast creating the need for the explosive feast, is the legacy we've largely lost. The Victorians commercialized and sanitized these traditions, turning the 12 days into a single day, and replacing ritualized chaos with sentimental family gatherings. We kept the mistletoe and the concept of feasting, but we lost the deeper meaning of the cycle. That Tudor understanding of contrast, of celebration, earned through restraint, is a forgotten historical rhythm. If you want to explore more of these lost cycles of history, subscribe to Time Teller Chronicles.